1045 The Team, your home for New York sports. The college football landscape is so much fun to talk about right now. You got the playoff teams and everything else. So who better to reach out to than our friend Andrea Adelson, who covers college football for ESPN.com. Any big surprises for you with the rankings?
The only surprise that I had was Washington at number 4. And the only reason I say that is because of the way the selection committee explained its evaluations in week 1. In week 1 of those rankings last week, they had Texas A&M at number 4 based on a superior strength of schedule over undefeated Washington. So now here we come. A&M loses. Who's going to take the 4th spot? And they put undefeated Washington in there over an Ohio State team that has 1 loss but a far superior strength of schedule. So my only issue with the ranking is inconsistency from week to week in terms of what they feel more strongly about. Are they feeling strong one week about strength of schedule, or are they feeling better about an undefeated team? Those are the types of questions and issues that I have, and I think a lot of coaches have, with the weekly rankings and the explanation that surround these rankings, because it doesn't seem like it's the same reason and rationale from week to week.
And I agree with you on that. And I wonder now going forward, is there a chance an Ohio State or another one-loss team could catch up to Washington even if they finish the season undefeated?
I don't think so, honestly. I do think that if Washington finishes the season undefeated as a conference champion, there is no way a one-loss non-champion would finish ahead of Washington. I do think that at the end of the season, the committee is going to take into account conference champions. And if all things are equal, I think the conference champion will get the nod. And so that's why I don't have an issue with Washington at 4. That's where I would have had them last week as an undefeated team that's leading the conference. But again, when we're sitting here weighing strength of schedule one week and then not the next, I think that's where we get all these mixed signals and you get coaches complaining about what is the selection committee looking at. Certainly if you're undefeated as a conference champion in the Power 5, I should preface that by saying in the Power 5, I think you've got a great chance of making it into the playoffs.
Andrea Adelson with us right now, 1045 The Team, Levack and Goz. So, Andrea, we've got, Alabama at 1. You think Washington, if they run the table, they're going to stay in there. Do you see any real movement in the top 4?
In terms of the rest of the season?
Yeah, like every year, it's like fun to watch them jump. This, like, to have just one team flip flop and only the 4th seed this week was kind of weird as a fan of like all teams.
Well, there's still plenty of games left to be played, and certainly important ones. There's no question about that. Obviously, Michigan has to play Ohio State on the road, and that is a team that has flummoxed Michigan now for years, and I know it's one that Michigan fans are desperate to win, not only to try and secure a spot in the playoff, but also to finally beat Ohio State. So, that's obviously a big one. Alabama-Auburn's another big one. Washington's got some big games coming up. I think of those 4 teams, Clemson probably has the best chance of making it through undefeated in terms of what the odds are. And then I'd probably give Alabama the next best chance. I don't really know how big of a challenge Auburn is going to be. Maybe it will be bigger than what I think right now. But certainly I expect Alabama and Clemson to be there at the end. A little bit more skeptical about Michigan and Washington because of who they have left on the schedule.
This week in upstate New York, we're going to see one of the teams, the Syracuse Orange, take on the NC State Wolfpack. You've had a chance to work on a piece involving the Wolfpack coach, Dave Doeren. What can we know about this coach?
Well, a lot of people are questioning whether Dave Doeren is on the hot seat right now. They've lost 4 straight games, heartbreakers, to Clemson and Florida State, and here they are. Those are the top 2 teams in the Atlantic Division, and they come 1 play away from beating both. The heartbreaking loss with the missed field goal at the end against Clemson and then against Florida State last week. One of their players dropped an interception in the end zone that would have sealed the victory for them. So they're coming into this game now with this losing streak, with a lot of people questioning and wondering whether Dave Doeren has a future there. And they've got to win 2 of their last 3 to get bowl eligible. So this is a huge game for NC State, not only to stop this losing streak, but also to try and improve its chances of getting to a bowl, because after Syracuse, they're playing Miami and North Carolina, and those are going to be difficult games, along with Syracuse, obviously. So there's a lot of speculation and wonder about what has happened to NC State here and when things will finally start going their way, because they've been on the end of some bad luck here over the last month.
Andrea Adelson with Levack and Goz right now, 104.5 The Team, talking college football. All right, so you might find me crazy, but when we talk about hot seat coaches, there's a guy out there floating around who eats grass and turns around programs. I heard this crazy thought that maybe Purdue would be a location, but maybe North Carolina State, maybe you have an insight as to where Les Miles might end up.
I think wherever he wants to end up, really, depending on what jobs are open at the end of the season. I think he's going to have his pick of where he wants to go. I don't know if Purdue has a grass field. If they don't, that might be a serious consideration.
That's a great point.
When he starts looking at a job, I have to look that up. I'll be honest and say I haven't been to a game at Purdue, and I don't ever recall watching Purdue on television, so I'm very sorry. I don't have the field expertise on what they play on. But certainly grass has to be a factor, right, guys? I mean, if there's going to be some artificial turf out there, what's the point of taking that job? But in all seriousness, he wants to get back and be a head coach. He said as much in interviews with ESPN and Sports Illustrated that he wants to get back into it. And I think it really all depends on what jobs come open here in the off season. He is going to be at the top of a lot of people's lists, and he should be, because he's a proven winner as a head coach, and he's done great things at LSU, and so we'll see where he ends up.
You don't want to make like a crazy prediction, like we're sitting at the window at Vegas. You got $5, you put it on a future where Les Miles could be.
I can't even start to venture which jobs are going to be open at the end of the season. To me, there's so much uncertainty there, right? I mean, what's going to happen at Texas? What's going to happen at Notre Dame? What's going to happen at Houston, for example? I mean, now you talk about a job that maybe it's a group of five, but that could be very appealing. Certainly to me, Houston is a much more appealing job than Purdue, for example. If Tom Herman leaves there, I think that could be a great spot for him. He coaches there a couple years and then gets wherever he wants to go. So who knows? We're all speculating at this point, but I think there's going to be a lot of jobs open at the end of the season, and he might end up a place that none of us ever expect.
Andrea, we know you cover the ACC. Earlier this season, I was in the Carrier Dome watching Lamar Jackson run all over my Syracuse Orange.
He cried so much.
Oh, it's terrible. But the Heisman Trophy ballots are officially mailed out via email now. Now it's Technology 2016 on November 21st. Does Lamar Jackson already have the Heisman locked up?
Well, I'm not going to say he already has it locked up, because there still are a few weeks left to play, and who knows what could happen. But I do think, I'll say this, barring some unforeseen major catastrophe, I think it's his. I don't think there's any question about that. Joe Test, who does the Heismanology for us at ESPN, Joe Tessitore, just sent out an email with the results, and this is what he said about Lamar Jackson. He said, quote, "We haven't seen this kind of lead heading into the second weekend of November ever." Wow. He actually increased his margin from last week. Even though he was already lapping the field last week, he increased it even further. He's got 100% of the first place votes for the folks who do participate in Joe Tessitore's Heismanology, those ESPN voters who do have a Heisman vote. So this all points toward him being the hands-down favorite to win it. I think the odds are 1-30 or something right now in Vegas. So unless something bizarre happens, I do think that he's going to win the Heisman Trophy.
And we know Joe Tessitore is a smart guy because he's from the Capital Region right here in Albany. So you know when an Albany guy is running the Heismanology.
He's smart enough to get out.
Andrea, we'll let you go on this. What's the few games you're watching this weekend that could really have a big impact across the top 25?
Oh, gosh. Well, it's not exactly like a super awesome overall weekend nationally, but certainly I think there's two. Michigan at Iowa. And I say that even though Iowa's kind of down this year, because this has been a very, very difficult place for Michigan to go and win. And I think a lot of people might be overlooking this game because they have Ohio State left at the end. But because Michigan has so many problems winning in Iowa, I think this is a game that people should be paying attention to as one of those upset potentials this weekend. And I think the other one, which I believe is where our game day folks are going to be at, is USC against Washington. And this is another one that a lot of people are wondering, well, now USC is ranked again. They've gotten hot behind their new starting quarterback. could they potentially cause some problems for what has been an outstanding Washington defense, because now they are starting to hit on cylinders offensively. So to me, those two are the ones that I'm really going to be paying attention to that could really impact what happens with the college football playoffs.
Andrea Adelson, you got to follow her on Twitter at @Adelson ESPN. Her main focus is ACC, but she's got the entire world of college football locked down for us, and we appreciate your time. Thanks for helping us make a little sense of the landscape while I hang out with Orange Boy over here.
All right, guys. Thanks. I appreciate it.